welcome to this deep dive.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're going to be cracking open Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers today.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking at all those like hidden factors that kind of make people successful that go beyond the usual like hard work and all that stuff.
It's really interesting how often we buy into that lone genius myth, right?
Totally.
Like, oh, if you're just brilliant enough, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
And Gladwell really turns that on its head.
Yeah.
Reveals a way more interesting story, I think.
Yeah, so it's almost like a detective story in a way.
Yeah.
We're looking for clues in these hidden advantages
Yeah.
that like take these people who are outliers and separate them
Right.
from the rest of us. And, you know, I was thinking about like the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah.
You know, people say
Right.
to master anything,
Right.
you got to do it for 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Like, is that really all it is?
I mean,
Is it really just that simple?
it sounds simple.
Yeah.
But then you look at some of these examples in the book. Yeah.
And opportunity plays a huge role.
Yeah. And like one example I thought was so interesting was the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows how amazing they were, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did you know that they like played nonstop early on?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They cut their teeth
Yeah.
in Hamburg, Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, like almost nonstop.
Yeah.
Over 1,200
Oh my gosh.
live performances before they hit it big.
That's more than some bands
Way more.
do in their whole
in a lifetime.
career.
Yeah.
Wow, 1,200 gigs.
It's like a musical boot camp.
Gosh.
Most bands could only dream of that.
That's insane. I can barely get through like one open mic night
Right.
without wanting to crawl under a table.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, like, would they have been as successful without that?
It's hard to say for sure, but it definitely gave them an edge,
Yeah.
you know, to really refine their sound and their skills and kind of develop that unique sound.
That they had in a way that a lot of bands just wouldn't have been able to do.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And that's just one example. I mean, he talks about Bill Joy, too.
Oh, yeah, Bill Joy.
The coding whiz.
Yeah, the guy behind Sun
Microsystems, Java.
Java, that's right.
I mean, that's everywhere.
Okay, now that's impressive.
Right.
Like Java is something I use every day, and I don't even think about it.
Exactly.
So what was it about Bill Joy that made him so good at coding? Was he just like a genius?
Well, he was brilliant.
Right.
For sure. But
Right.
but one of the key turning points for him was getting access to this super rare time-sharing computer terminal.
Oh, wow.
Back in the early 1970s.
Yeah.
So this is when computers were massive and expensive.
Right.
And very few people had access to them.
Yeah.
So he got lucky.
So it's like he found like this secret weapon almost.
Exactly.
Like this coding superpower
Yeah.
that nobody else had
Yeah.
at the time.
He was able to practice for hours and hours.
Wow.
Racking up tons of experience,
Yeah.
really way more than anybody else had at that time
Yeah.
in the field. And that really kind of propelled him to the top of the tech world.
That's incredibly, just one little
Yeah.
opportunity could totally change someone's career.
Totally.
And that's what I think is so fun about this deep dive is like we're peeling back the layers,
Yeah.
looking for these advantages that nobody really thinks about.
Exactly. And it's not just about access to resources or
Right.
technology. Like,
Yeah.
he really uncovers some truly surprising factors, like birth date.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How does your birthday affect your success?
I know, right?
Besides like getting better presents.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's take Canadian hockey players.
What-
You would think it's all talent and hard work.
Yeah. The best rise to the top.
The best rise to the top, right?
Yeah.
But there's this really curious pattern.
Uh-huh.
A huge percentage of elite players are born in January, February, and March.
Is there like something magical about those months?
That's what I thought too.
Right. Like, are they just pumping out these hockey prodigies? What's going on?
Is it something in the water?
Well, not exactly. It actually comes down to the cutoff dates for youth hockey leagues.
Huh?
You know, the older kids
Right.
in each age group,
Right.
they're naturally bigger,
Yeah.
they're stronger,
Yeah.
more coordinated.
Yeah.
So they get selected for the better teams, more coaching,
Yay.
and then they play in more competitive games.
So it's like this snowball effect.
Exactly.
An early advantage that just compounds over time.
Yeah.
And he uses this great example
Okay.
of Scott Wasden.
Right.
He made it to the Memorial Cup Championship.
Wow.
Guess when his birthday is?
I don't know.
January 4th.
Oh, wow.
So it makes you wonder
Yeah.
if that played a role.
That's mind-blowing.
Right.
That just a couple of months could make such a difference.
It creates an entirely different playing field.
Even in something that seems like it should be totally based on merit.
Exactly.
Like professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you think about all these other things.
Yeah.
Like rules and stuff.
Absolutely.
That might be affecting outcomes.
Yeah.
Without us even realizing it.
And that leads us to another question.
Okay.
Does a high IQ automatically equal success?
I mean, we always think
Right.
that like geniuses are
brilliant people.
going to be super successful.
They should just succeed, right?
Yeah.
But Gladwell uses this example of Christopher Langan.
Okay.
This guy has an incredibly high IQ.
Okay.
Taught himself advanced math and languages as a kid.
So like a classic
Child prodigy
story.
Totally.
You'd think he'd be set for life.
Right.
Destined for greatness.
You would think so?
Yeah.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
Despite that amazing intellect, Langan ended up working blue-collar jobs.
Oh, wow.
Really struggled to kind of navigate the world outside of academia.
So, like, he was a genius in books.
Yeah.
But not in the real world.
Exactly.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
You think that, like, all that intelligence would be like a ticket to success?
You would think.
What was missing?
Well, Gladwell contrasts his story with Robert Oppenheimer, who led the Manhattan Project.
Right.
Now, Oppenheimer was a genius, too.
Okay.
But he also had something else.
Okay.
He had social skills.
Okay.
And what Gladwell calls practical intelligence.
Okay, so like he knew how to work the system.
Exactly.
Knew how to charm people and get things done.
Yeah, he understood like the nuances of power, persuasion, negotiation, all that stuff.
Yes.
Skills that proved to be just as valuable as his scientific brilliance.
Like the difference between knowing all the answers on a test.
That's exactly.
And actually like knowing how to apply it in real life.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you need both.
And this is where the work of sociologist Annette Leroux comes into play.
Okay.
She studied different parenting styles.
Oh, interesting.
And what she found was wealthier families often use what's called concerted cultivation.
Concerted cultivation.
Yeah, it's a fancy way of saying they actively teach their kids to advocate for themselves, question authority.
Interesting.
Navigate complex situations.
Okay, so like they're giving their kids this toolkit for success.
Yeah.
It goes beyond just academics.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Whereas families with fewer resources tend to focus on natural growth.
Okay.
Letting their kids kind of develop more independently. Now, there's nothing wrong with that approach.
Right.
But it can create a disadvantage.
Right.
When those kids enter a world where being assertive and having those social skills is really valued.
Yeah, it makes you think like how much of our upbringing really affects our chances.
It's huge.
Success. Yeah. It's not just our genes. It's like, the unspoken rules.
It's the whole,
it's the whole context.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this leads us to another interesting pattern that he uncovers, which is the success of certain immigrant groups.
Okay.
He tells the story of Joe Flom.
Okay.
This legendary New York lawyer.
Okay.
And his firm, Skadden Arps.
Okay.
Why did he thrive when other Jewish lawyers at his time were struggling?
Okay, wait, hold on. We're going from child prodigies and hockey players to lawyers now. This is a deep dive, I'm telling you.
It is a deep dive.
This is fascinating, but I'm curious, where are we going?
All right, so this is where Gladwell reveals the power of generational opportunities.
Okay.
So Flom was born in the 1930s.
Okay.
It was known as a demographic trough.
A demographic trough.
Yeah, because families were having fewer children.
Oh, because of the Depression.
During the Depression.
I got it.
So he faced less competition.
Oh, so like a smaller pond.
Exactly.
Fewer fish to compete with. Fewer fish.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so less competition for schools.
Yeah.
Jobs opportunities.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and to really drive this point home, he contrasts Flom's journey with another successful figure.
Okay.
Mort Janklow. You may have heard of him. He was a literary agent.
Okay, yeah.
So Mort was also a trough baby, born during this time of reduced competition.
Okay.
But his father, Maurice, who was born earlier, faced a much tougher path.
So it's like they were playing two totally different games, even though they're from the same family.
And this highlights this crucial point. Yeah. Success isn't just about individual grit.
Right.
It's about historical context.
Right.
Being born at the right time.
Wow.
These demographic trough babies.
Right.
they benefit from that reduced competition.
Right.
And it can really boost their chances of success.
It's like Gladwell is saying timing is everything. I mean, I never really thought about how much our success is affected by things we can't control.
It's both liberating and a little bit daunting at the same time.
Yeah, totally. I feel that.
Yeah. So that's the beauty of his work.
Yeah.
He really challenges our assumption.
Yeah.
Opens up new ways of thinking about success.
For sure.
Speaking of cultural legacies.
Yeah.
And hidden advantages.
Yeah.
Get ready for a wild ride because we're going from law offices to rice paddies.
Rice paddies. I know. What could rice farming possibly have to do with success?
Right.
This is where I love this deep dive.
Right. This is one of my favorite parts of
I know.
video.
It takes us into such unexpected territory.
Yeah.
Okay, so fill me in. What's the connection?
So he explores why East Asian cultures excel at math.
Okay.
And it's not just genetics.
Okay.
Rice farming plays a surprising role.
Okay, so we're saying rice paddies are like math training grounds.
Kind of.
All right. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So think about it. Rice farming requires over 3,000 work hours per year.
Wow.
It's incredibly labor intensive.
That's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
It's also incredibly complex.
Okay.
They have to manage irrigation, fertilization, pest control.
It's like a giant puzzle they got to solve.
It is like a giant puzzle that they have to solve every season.
Wow.
So it's not just back-breaking work.
Right.
It requires strategic thinking, planning, mental agility.
So all that problem solving.
All the time.
Yeah.
This meaningful work, as he calls it, instills a work ethic.
Yeah.
This real dedication.
Yeah.
And that translates surprisingly well to academic success.
Really?
Yeah, particularly in math.
Wow.
So it's like a cultural inheritance, this way of thinking, approaching challenges, that's passed down through generations.
So it's not even like a conscious thing. It's just like ingrained.
It's ingrained in them.
It really is.
That's incredible.
It's an amazing example of how cultural practices
can have this ripple effect on cognitive abilities and ultimately shape success.
This is so cool. We've gone from rock stars and computer whizzes to hockey players to lawyers and rice farmers.
Rice farmers.
Like, this is great.
It is a really interesting journey.
We're piecing together this giant puzzle of success.
Right.
It's like every example is a new piece of the puzzle.
And just wait. It gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Because we're going to delve into how these insights are being put into practice.
Okay.
So Gladwell brings it all together by looking at KPP Academy.
KPP Academy.
This school in the South Bronx.
Okay.
That's achieving amazing results with low-income kids, especially in math.
A school in the South Bronx is excelling at math.
Yes.
I got to hear this. What's their secret?
Well, they're kind of borrowing a page from the Rice Paddy playbook.
What do you mean?
So their secret.
Okay.
A longer school day.
Okay.
Saturday school.
Wow.
Summer school.
Wow.
Essentially, they're recreating that meaningful work environment. That culture of dedication and perseverance.
So they're like taking the principles of the rice paddy and applying them to the classroom.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
Right.
But I imagine it's not easy for the kids.
No, it's not a walk in the park.
Yeah.
He tells the story of Marita, this 12-year-old Kim IP student with this grueling schedule. Yeah. She's essentially making a bargain.
Right.
Trading one set of cultural norms for another one that she believes will lead to a brighter future. And she's willing to make that choice.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
You know, it really shows the sacrifices that people are willing to make for a chance at a better life.
Right.
So that's where we're going to pause our deep dive for now.
Okay.
But don't go anywhere. We've only just scratched the surface of Gladwell's Outliers.
There's so much more to uncover.
Stay tuned for part 2. We'll explore
all the implications of these ideas and uncover even more mind-blowing insights.
Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
See you then.
See you then. Welcome back to our deep dive into Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers.
Yeah.
Last time we were talking about Marita. That 12-year-old student at KPP Academy.
Right.
With that crazy intense schedule.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, like, is that level of commitment sustainable?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And to answer it, you really have to look at the principle behind KPP's approach.
Yeah.
Remember the meaningful work concept we talked about?
Yeah, with the rice paddy farmer.
Right, with the rice paddy farmers.
Yeah.
So KPP is trying to create that same sense of purpose.
Right.
in the classroom.
Okay. So it's not just about the longer hours. It's about making school feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, like the effort they put in translates to rewards.
Exactly.
And this connects back to LaRoe's research on parenting styles. Kippy P is, in a sense, applying the principles of concerted cultivation on a school-wide level.
Okay.
They're teaching kids to be assertive, to advocate for themselves, to see education as a path to a brighter future.
So it's like they're giving them the tools to succeed, not just in school, but in life.
Exactly.
But is there a risk of burnout with that?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's important to note that Kippy P's approach is not about pushing kids to their breaking point.
Right.
It's really about transforming their perception of work.
Okay.
Making them see the value in their effort.
Okay.
And this ties into a point that he makes about summer learning loss.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
Kids, especially like from disadvantaged backgrounds.
Right.
They lose a lot of ground academically over the summer.
Yeah. It's like they take 2 steps forward during the school year and then 1 step back.
Right, over the summer.
During the summer.
Exactly.
And that's where KPP's extended school year comes in.
Okay.
They're mitigating that loss.
Right. By providing that structure throughout the summer.
So it's not about working more or overall, it's just about spreading it out.
Exactly.
More evenly.
More consistently.
Right.
Yeah, and the results are remarkable.
Okay.
These kids are often surpassing their peers from more privileged backgrounds.
That's amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
But I still worry about, even with a more balanced schedule, what about all the other stuff?
Right.
The creativity and the social skills, like all that stuff you learn outside the classroom.
Right.
Are they missing out on that?
Well, that's where Copy P's holistic approach comes in.
Okay.
Remember, they learn to play a musical instrument.
Oh, yeah.
Every student. They even have their own orchestra.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just about, like, exposing them to music and art.
It's more than that. Yeah. It's about teaching teamwork discipline.
Oh, wow.
A sense of accomplishment through a different medium.
Right, so it's not about
they understand
creating these, like, math robots.
Yeah, they want these kids to be well-rounded, creative, socially adept, and academically successful.
It's like they figured out how to, like, give them everything.
It's really interesting to see.
Yeah, it really is.
How it all plays out.
And it makes you wonder, like, can this be applied in other places?
Exactly.
Can this work in other situations?
It challenges our assumptions about what's possible.
Yeah, it really does.
Especially for kids from low-income backgrounds.
It really makes you rethink all that stuff about the achievement gap.
Absolutely.
Like, maybe it's not about the kids. Maybe it's about the system.
And this brings us back to one of Gladwell's central points.
Okay.
Success isn't just about individual effort. Right. It's about the opportunities, the legacies that we inherit.
Right.
Speaking of legacies, let's shift gears for a moment and look at this fascinating example from Harlan, Kentucky.
Harlan, Kentucky. Okay, I know that's in Appalachia, but I'm not sure why that's relevant to our conversation.
Well, Harlan is notorious for its history of feuds and violence.
Oh, okay.
And Gladwell uses it as a case study to explore the concept of culture of honor.
Culture of honor.
Which originated in the herding communities of Europe.
Okay.
Particularly in regions like the Scottish borderlands.
Okay, so we're going from the classroom to the Wild West now.
Kinda.
But how do sheep herders in Scotland relate to violence in Kentucky?
Good question.
Centuries later.
It's a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
So these herding communities, they develop this fierce sense of independence.
Okay.
A willingness to defend their honor and reputation.
Right.
Often with violence.
Okay.
And this culture of honor was brought to the Appalachian region by Scotch-Irish immigrants who settled there.
So it's like this cultural DNA.
Exactly.
That's been passed down.
Through generations.
Yeah.
Shaping behavior.
Wow.
And what's really interesting, he cites studies showing that people from cultures of honor, even those who've never lived in those traditional communities, are more likely to react aggressively to perceived insults or threats.
So it's like a subconscious trigger.
Kind of like that.
Just ingrained in them.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing how much, like, our heritage can really affect
our behavior. In
such a big way.
Really highlights the power of cultural legacies.
It really does.
Does it?
It makes you think, what other cultural legacies are we carrying without realizing it?
Yeah.
This is getting deep.
I know.
All right, I'm ready for the next twist.
Okay, fasten your seatbelts.
Okay.
We're taking a detour into the world of plane crashes.
Plane crashes.
I know.
Okay, now I'm really lost. How does this connect to success?
I know, right?
Is he saying we should all be pilots now?
Not exactly.
Okay.
But what's so interesting about his analysis of plane crashes is that he goes beyond the typical explanations.
Like mechanical failures or pilot error. Yeah. He delves into the cultural factors that contribute to these tragedies. Particularly this concept of power distance.
Power distance. Remind me what that is. Is that like the feeling you get when your boss is like looking over your shoulder?
Well, it can manifest in the workplace. But it's a broader concept. It's a measure of how much a culture values, respects authority. So in high-power distance cultures, there's a strong emphasis on hierarchy. Subordinates are expected to be deferential to their superiors.
So like in those old military movies.
Exactly.
Where you're not supposed to question the captain, no matter what.
Or the commanding officer. And while that might be necessary in certain contexts, Gladwell argues that in the cockpit, this can have disastrous consequences.
So if the co-pilot sees a problem, they might not say anything.
Exactly.
If the captain's acting confident.
Even if it means risking everybody's lives.
And he uses several examples. Like the Korean air crashes, where investigators found that co-pilots often had concerns. But they were hesitant to challenge the captain.
Oh my God.
Directly.
That's terrifying.
It is.
That just like cultural norms could prevent people from speaking up.
When lives are at stake.
When it really matters.
Wow. And it's not just about Korean culture. He also talks about the Avianca crash outside New York City. Where the Colombian pilots, also from a high-power distance culture, used what he calls mitigated speech.
Mitigated speech?
When communicating with air traffic control.
What does that mean?
So it means like downplaying the severity of a situation. Using indirect language, avoiding confrontation. So in the case of Avianca Flight 52, the pilots were running low on fuel, but they were hesitant to communicate the urgency to air traffic control.
Wow.
And tragically, that contributed to the crash.
That's a chilling example of how, like, cultural norms can really clash with, like, high-pressure situations.
High-stakes situations.
It makes you wonder, like, how often are WE not speaking up? At work or in relationships or just in life.
Exactly.
Because of these, like...
Unspoken rules.
Unspoken rules,
about power and authority.
That's powerful.
It is.
And it goes back to this idea of, like, success isn't just about, like, what, you know, and how hard you work. It's about, like, understanding.
Navigating these complex cultural landscapes. It's really fascinating. To see how it all plays out.
So we've talked about opportunities, cultural legacies, the dangers of power distance. It seems like Gladwell is really challenging this whole idea.
He is.
Of the self-made person.
The lone genius. Throughout the book. He really dismantles that myth, showing us that success is often a product. This complex web of advantages, inheritances, and even random events.
That's like we're all part of this giant tapestry.
I love that. And that's a great way to put it.
Woven together by like history and culture and circumstance and our individual threads. While they're important, they're just one small part of the whole design.
It's a beautiful way to put it, and it leads us to a really important question. If success is so heavily influenced by these external factors. What does that say about our responsibility to create more equitable opportunities?
It's like he's saying, okay, you've seen the hidden patterns. Now what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
It's a call to action.
It is. It really is. And it's not just about like these big grand gestures or systemic change. It can be about small acts of kindness, mentorship, recognizing potential.
Like that scholarship his mom got.
Exactly.
That changed her life. Like somebody saw her potential and gave her a chance.
And that one act had a ripple effect.
Exactly. It's crazy to think about.
It's amazing.
How one little thing can affect so many people.
It's a beautiful illustration of the power of individual action.
Yeah, it is.
We can all be part of creating a world where success is less about luck. And more about opportunity.
I think that's a great takeaway from this whole deep dive. You know, we've learned success is this complex thing. It's about effort and legacies and circumstances and even luck.
All of it.
But by understanding all that stuff, we can change the story. We can move away from that self-made myth.
Right.
And start to look at it in a more nuanced way.
Yeah.
And then use that to make the world better.
Absolutely.
So to wrap up this part.
Okay.
Gladwell brings it all home with this personal story about his own family.
His mother's journey.
Yeah, his mom's journey.
From Jamaica to England.
To England, yeah.
It's amazing.
And how she was so lucky to get these opportunities that really paved the way for her success.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even the most personal success stories are intertwined with these larger forces. Right. It's a beautiful way to connect the dots, show how these abstract concepts play out in real life.
Right.
And it sets the stage for our final part, where we'll explore the implications of all these ideas.
Right.
And leave you with some thought-provoking questions.
Sounds good.
To ponder.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into outliers. We've covered so much ground, from the rice paddies of China to the cockpits of airplanes.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. I feel like I have this whole new understanding of success now.
Yeah, it's amazing how he brings together all these different stories, right?
Totally.
And shows those connections.
Yeah, and one of the things I keep thinking about are those cultural legacies.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they shape us in ways we don't even realize.
It really is.
Like those rice paddy farmers. Mm-hmm. It's like their ancestors are helping them be good at math.
Yeah, that work ethic passed down through generations.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's fascinating.
And Harlan, Kentucky.
Right.
With that culture of honor.
Totally different context.
Yeah, but it's the same idea.
Yeah.
Like these invisible forces shaping how people act.
And you start to wonder, right?
Totally.
What other legacies?
Yeah, what are the OE carrying around?
Exactly.
That we don't even know about?
Yeah, and it makes you think about his mom's story, too. Coming from Jamaica to England.
She was so lucky.
She was.
Right, those chances.
Right place, right time.
It wasn't just hard work.
It's never just one thing, is it?
That's what I'm realizing. Like, success is this complicated thing.
Yeah, it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, if it's so much about these things outside our control.
Right.
What's our responsibility then?
That's a big question, right?
It is.
Like, are we obligated to help others?
Yeah, to level the playing field.
Since we got all these lucky breaks.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Right. Like, Gladwell doesn't give us easy answers.
No, he doesn't.
But he makes us think.
He makes us think.
Which is probably the point of the whole book.
Exactly. Right? It's not about finding the one right answer.
Right.
It's about asking the right questions.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it so thought-provoking.
So what can we do then?
I mean, it's not just about, like, changing the whole system.
Right.
It can be smaller things, right? Oh, yeah. Being kind to people, mentoring someone.
Yeah.
Just noticing when someone has potential.
Like that scholarship.
Exactly.
His mom got.
Yeah.
It changed everything.
One person saw something in her.
Right, and that rippled out.
Yeah, affecting her kids.
To her grandkids, and who knows how far.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is like one little action can change the world.
We can all be part of that.
Totally. Like making success less about luck and more about giving everyone a chance.
I love that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm taking away from Outliers.
Yeah, me too.
It's not just about hard work.
It's about understanding.
Yeah, understanding all these forces that we never even think about.
The hidden advantages.
Yeah, once we see them, then we can start to change things.
Exactly, and move away from that myth of the self-made person.
Right, and create a world where everyone has a shot.
More equitable.
Yeah.
I like that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
I
want you to think about your journey.
Yeah.
What were your lucky breaks?
Those moments where things could have gone a different way.
Totally. And now that you know this stuff, what are you going to do?
How are you going to pay it forward?
How are you going to make the world a little bit better?
It's a great question to leave people with.
I think so, too. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
On this deep dive into Outliers.
We hope you've enjoyed it.
See you next time.